Good afternoon. My name is Nicole Mausen with EngageBay. Today, EngageBay is very excited to begin our interview series where we will sit down with influential names in sales and marketing. We decided to start things off with a bang as our first guest is none other than Shane Barker. Shane is an incredibly renowned digital marketing consultant. He's worked with the likes of celebrities as well as everyday clients. He has a #1 national ranking with ProScore for his digital consultancy work. Shane specializes in website conversions, targeted traffic, sales funnels, content marketing, product launches, and influencer marketing, among other things. Besides his work as a digital marketing consultant, Shane also lends his expertise to many a publication. These include Marketing Profs, Yahoo Small Business, Salesforce, Huffington Post, Entrepreneur, and Forbes. Shane is also an instructor at UCLA, contributes to the Sacramento startup community, consults for the U.S. government, and is a passionate runner. In less than 2 years, he's logged more than 6,000 hours on his Fitbit. He's an incredible first guest, and we couldn't be more excited to have him. Without further ado, here's Shane Barker. Shane, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, Nicole. How are you doing? Boy, you guys got the full comprehensive thing, stuff I've done. I'm like, man, that's a lot of stuff. Who knew?
We're doing well. I'm very excited to start. So let's get going with the first question. I want to know a little bit about yourself. Where did you see yourself going in your early years, and what were your passions and hobbies?
Yeah, so I think in my early years, so I've been in the digital space for 20 plus years, almost sneaking up on 25 years. So in my early years, I was always had kind of an infatuation about money. Like money was always kind of an interesting thing as a kid. I remember it's a funny story of we were camping one time. This was a long time ago, and I remember we were at a camping spot, and somebody was like, recycling cans. And I asked them, I'm like, hey, what are they doing? And like, oh, well, they collect cans and they can make money. And I'm like, what? Like, we're camping, there's cans everywhere, So it's like, man, you got to be kidding me. Like, there's free money everywhere. So ever since that point, and even as a kid, I remember my mom one birthday, she gave me $100, which, back then was a big deal.
Yeah.
She gave it to me one, so I was able to count it. So I was like, oh, I would like count it over and over and over and over. And it was like this thing. And so I always had like this infatuation with money. And I wanted to become a millionaire by a certain year or date before a certain age. And so there was this kind of this thing that was, when I was younger, a little more naive with stuff and built some big businesses and good stuff. But now my focus has changed. But when I was younger, like I said, there was that infatuation with money. I always really liked to, like, what I could do to get people to buy stuff, right? So I like a lemonade stand and some other stuff like that. I would buy stuff and I would resell it. I would buy candy bars and go, and I would sell them at school, which was illegal and I got in trouble for. I mean, just little stuff like that, like how could I make $1, right? And how could I go about that? So I've always kind of been in that game of like the little hustle side game and what can I do to make some cash here and there. Now it's gotten a lot bigger, and there's bigger, and I have teams to help me get my side hustles going. So it's been awesome. So it's been a good little journey for sure.
That's really great. So let's talk a little bit about business. How can you tell our audience about how influencer marketing can help small businesses?
Yeah, so influencer marketing is really what it comes down to is it's a tool in your toolbox, right? So it's not, if you don't want to go into influencer marketing if you're like, I have my last $1,000 and if this doesn't work, I'm going to go down, right? Because if you have influencer marketing, it's not just hiring an influencer that has a high follower count and praying that things go well. I mean, it really is a strategy in the sense that it takes time. And you want to make sure you're vetting the influencers and make sure you figure out what you're going to be negotiating and what they're going to do for a certain cost and the timelines and all that kind of stuff. So, influencer marketing can work really for any business. There's some businesses that are better than others, but really what it comes down to is understand if you know who your core client is, then you want to go find an influencer, obviously, that has that, that same type of clientele with some type of followership. And then really what it comes down to is not just doing one campaign. Like just because you've done one campaign with one influencer on one platform doesn't mean that influencer marketing doesn't work, right? I mean, we have YouTube, you have Snapchat, you have Twitter, you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have blogs, you have YouTube. I mean, there's a lot of different things platforms you can go to, and there's thousands, if not millions of influencers on there. So it's important to do a lot of A/B testing. You try, hey, we'll try something on YouTube. We'll try, have somebody write a blog article. We'll have 2 people on Instagram do some posts, do some different types of content. And then you want to see what moves the needle. And now when you have an idea of what moves the needle, then you're going to go ahead and take that and go find other influencers that have that same type of profile, that do videos, do whatever that is, whatever move the needle. And then you go and hire those individuals and go ahead and, move the campaign forward.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So as we mentioned before, you're a thought leader and an influencer, but what is the single area of expertise you would consider yourself to be best at?
Yeah, it's a hard one, man. I'll tell you. The problem is that I do like even having a title. People are like, "What are your title?" I'm like, I don't know. Like it's so hard because I've done so many different things. I mean, like I do keynote speeches, I do workshops for brands in the influencer space. I have a course coming out, like how to be an influencer course coming out.
Hmm.
Really, I would say what I'm best at is probably driving traffic. I'm the right
Okay.
type of traffic, right? So probably more like, hey, creating content and then be able to convert that traffic into leads for clients and
Mhm.
for myself. Like my website alone, I don't have any sales team. Like I'm strictly the only salesperson. And what happens, the reason why that is because of the content we've created and the inbound marketing that happens because of that. So we get hundreds of leads a month because of the websites that I write for and the type of webinars that we do and these type of things. We have podcasts and interviews and stuff like that and my keynote speeches. So, but having one title it's just hard. Like I mean, it changes like every 6 months. Like, oh, what are you this month? I'm like, I'm a CMO because I've always been a CMO. But hey, but hey, I'm also a consultant on this kind of stuff. So it's I don't know that the title thing is always difficult for me. I don't know what to label myself as.
Okay, that's fair. All right, so let's move on to the talking about the SaaS landscape. With so many businesses starting up, what are some of the best strategies you would suggest for these early stage startups to follow and get noticed?
Yeah, I mean, I think the SaaS landscape is obviously, just depends on what your product and what you're putting out there software wise. But I think one of the biggest things you have to look at is, in regards to finding the perfect client, is really what is your software? What is the solution for, right? So, what are the pain points of your clients, and is your software the solution for that? And that also comes into creating content. When you're creating content on the web, whether it be on YouTube or your blog or whatever, you need to figure out what your clients are looking up, right? So my thing is how do I find out, who is number one for this certain keyword? Well, if
Mhm.
I'm SEM Rush and I want to write an article about that because my software is that solution for their potential problem, right? And the cool part about social media is people are constantly talking about problems and things that are going on. And so you can go into, I mean, Quora, there's questions all day long that people are asking about this, that, and the other. And if you
Yeah.
are that perfect software, then you should go in and, engage those individuals and talk to them about the solution, but also promote it online about how your software is the solution, the exact solution for this certain problem that this individual is having. Another thing is too, is when you're talking about strategies, is not only the content side of things, but you also want to be able to take a look what your competitors are doing,
Hmm.
right? So if you want to go you want to do like some SEO type stuff, you want to find out, you want to be number one for a certain keyword, find out what your competitors, if they're number one for that keyword, then you want to go look at their backlink profile and take a look at like, hey, where they've gotten interviews and where they're getting some good traction. And then, once again, you want to become number one for those keywords. So you have to figure out what kind of content you have to write there. There's all kinds of great tools you can use to find out, what keywords you need to put in there, the keyword density, how many backlinks need to go to those articles to become number one. PPC is a good way to go, but I mean, PPC can be up tomorrow, but as soon as you quit paying that bill, then your stuff goes down. So organic is always, has always been the goal to go after. It takes a lot longer term though, right? It doesn't happen overnight, but once you become number one, like my site just in this last year and a half has gone crazy. We get about 150,000 uniques right now. And that's
Wow.
because of the SEO that we've done over the last year and a half. And I've been writing for about 7-8 years, but we took it real seriously this last year and a half. And now
Mhm.
we are, like digital marketing consultant. We have some really great keywords that I'm number one for that generate some phenomenal leads for us.
Wow. So how would you suggest that these SaaS businesses convert visitors as well?
Yeah, I mean, the way that they need to do is you just need to have a good funnel, right? I mean, the idea is to be grabbing the right type of traffic. And so it's not always that, hey, I have 1 million people that come to my website, because
Mhm.
I can be number one for a keyword that has nothing to do with my website, but I can pull number one for that. And that's not the right type of traffic. So it really comes down to the quality of traffic.
Mhm.
And then you got to really figure out what people are doing. Like you got to look at the high intent keywords, right? So you're looking at keywords that somebody is. So somebody's looking. Give you an example. So like chatbot. So if you look up the thing chatbot, well, that could be a number of different things, but a high intent search for that would be like best chatbot, right? Because now people
Right.
are obviously looking for the best chatbot. That's somebody who's like wants to compare them and wants to probably looking to make some kind of decision. So you really want to take a look at those specific types of keywords and really go after those and become number one for those, because now, once again, those are going to be the people that show high intent. But when they come in, you also have to look at your page. Do you have your call to actions on there? Are you telling them to do what you want them to do? You have a free consultation? Do you have a free report that you can give them? Do you have a lead magnet that would pull them in so you're at least getting their email address so you can get them on some type of a email drip sequence? Like, what are you doing when somebody comes to that page? Because the issue is if you have 100 people come to your page, 98% of them, or 97, whatever your numbers are, leave. So what do
Right.
we do to retain those people, right? Great, you're getting the 2 and 3%, but I care about the 97 that don't care about me, right? Like, what do I need to do to pull those people in? And so that's really what it comes down to is, do you have a good funnel in place? How are people reacting to the content that you're producing? Whether that be white paper or an ebook or something you're offering for free, or that pop up for a consultation or whatever that is, but you have to get those people to, give you some type of information.
Okay. So what about a small business? Let's say that you don't have a lot of money to do social media or paid marketing or influencer marketing either. What would you suggest for these small companies to get noticed?
I would just shut down. No, I'm just kidding. No, keep the dream alive. No, I mean, the thing is you don't have to have huge budgets. Like influencer marketing, as an example, you don't need $1 million to do influencer marketing. What you need to figure out what you can do is what we call a value trade, right? So if you have an influencer that you're like, man, you guys come up with epic content, and I really want to work with you guys, but we don't have a huge budget. What you can do is say, but I do have a video person, right, that would come out and do free content for you. So what we'll do is, this will only take up 2 hours of your time. My video guy will use his resources. I'll go ahead and pay him for his time. And now the influencer doesn't have to go and produce the content, doesn't have to go and do the edits, doesn't have to do all this kind of stuff.
Right.
So it comes down to, like, what are you going to do to make it a win-win, right? Because you don't have to have the crazy budget, but just know if you don't have a budget, then you're going to have to be giving up time, right? So something's got to get there, right? So, but when we say the value trade is like, the idea of it's a bartering system, right? Back, when the Cowboys and Indians was like, hey, I'm going to give you some molasses and you're going to give me some cinnamon. Okay, that was a great trade, right? We didn't necessarily have cash, but you have a trade. So you have to figure out what your trade out is going to be. If you don't have a crazy budget, that's okay, but you have to figure out what is going to be the value that you're going to give to that other person, whether that's free product, whether that's whatever that is, because the idea is to you both, it needs to be a win-win, and you want to both be able to grow your business together. Right. And the idea of that is there's going to be power in numbers of like, hey, we'll make you an ambassador. We're going to put you on the website. We're going to do some paid ads that people will be able to see you. Like, what are you going to do for me, assuming that you can't pay me money, but what's that value trade that we've got going?
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. All right. So what do you think is the best social platform for B2B businesses and why?
Yeah. I mean, what do you mean for like B2B businesses, like as in like for social media side of things, or for like SEO, or?
We'll do both. Both works, yeah.
Okay. So I would say probably, there's a lot of great platforms out there for B2B businesses, right? I mean, if you're talking about using we use I'm trying to think of BuzzSumo is one that we use for
right.
when we come with content ideas and stuff like that. We're also big friends of Ahrefs that we use for the SEO and for content as well, keyword gap stuff, where we're looking at analysis of content that we're putting out there or we're putting out for our clients, plus a backlink analysis. So we'll find out, if we need to include clients in directories or expert roundups or something like that. SEMrush has always been good. We've used them for a long time as well. We've seen there's a lot of tools out there. We use a lot of them. Everything is just kind of different. Nothing's like that perfect tool, but those are the main ones that we use in regards to like the B2B business type stuff.
Okay. And what about social platforms?
So I would say social platforms, I mean, there's a lot of them. I mean, LinkedIn obviously being a big one, right? If you're going to be looking for your B2B type stuff. LinkedIn is going to be the main one that we use in regards to that. Every platform, we have our own little strategy between Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and all that fun stuff. So everything is kind of a little different. But it just really depends on what your goals are. If you're B2B, then obviously LinkedIn, I think, is going to be the number one to go after.
Okay. All right. So what about cost per click? The social media are, I'm so sorry. Cost per click on social channels are increasing. How can a small business get the maximum bang for their buck if they're spending ads on social media?
Yeah, I mean, social media, they're constantly going up, right? The prices are going up. So if you want to, get more exposure, then it's PPC or AdWords. We actually do about 5 million a month in PPC ads for clients, between my clients and my partners that we have relationships with. So really when it comes down to is, I mean, you don't have to spend $1,000 a day. I mean, really it comes down to A/B testing, right? I mean, there's some books that's been out there like spending $10 a day on PPC. And when you go and A/B test, right? So you can go and put up a picture and be the same blog post or same whatever you're looking to do. It can be a different title, different colors, and you see which one performs. You can put $10 behind it. it's costing you 30 cents a click or whatever that number is, then you should have a pretty good subset of data to go, okay, this one was a 7%, click-through rate, and this one was a 4%, so we should probably put our money into this one, and then see how well it goes. So you can always set your budgets at a certain number, right? It doesn't need to be $1,000 a day. It can be $50 a day. It can be $10 a day. You have to know that you have to have enough information in that data set to make an educated decision on how well things are going with that, right? So it really comes down to ROI. Like if I'm spending $10 a day and I would need to sell at least one blue widget and I'm making $20 if I sell one blue widget, well, then I'm okay with that. I'll spend 10 to make 20 or make $10, right? At least cover my $10 plus another 10. So you just have to look at that, and it's tweaking that until you get it to a point where, once again, if I'm giving you $1, you're giving me $2. I mean, I'll give you $1 million at that point, right? Because you're giving me $2 million in return. But you've just got to find that working funnel that happens, and it just takes a little bit of time.
Okay. So we already talked about B2B social media. What about B2C? How would you recommend, what strategies would you recommend for social media on B2C and influencer marketing as well?
Yeah, so B2C is once again, I think we talk about, is that value trade of if you're in the influencer space and there's influencers that you want to work with, what is going to be something that you guys can both do that will both help grow your business together, right? So the influencer thing, which is interesting about it, which I think a lot of people don't realize, is that not all influencers are the same, right? So it's not hey, all influencers with this following get paid $500.
Yeah.
Right? Some ask for more, some ask for less. The idea is like if they understand, they know your company, then obviously there's some value to that. But the idea of this thing is like you want to be able to go in and tell them, hey, this is what, be transparent. This is what we're looking to do. I think you're a good fit because of this. And this is kind of some of the ways we've worked with influencers in the past. This is something you'd be interested in doing, whether it be an affiliate relationship or a coupon code or something like that. Right? Because what happens is, what brands don't realize is that influencers aren't always marketers, right? They have a great followership, but that doesn't mean that they're marketers. So, if you can help educate them on how to put out the right type of content to be able to help them get a higher conversion rate on some kind of an affiliate deal where they're making $100 a pop, great. If it goes from getting 1 a week to 5 a week, well, that's a huge increase, right? Now that's $2,000 a month that I wasn't making before. So you want to make sure that, once again, helping them better understand. They probably know what kind of content goes well with their audience, for their audience, they'll react. But you might have to, as a brand, you might have to come in there and help assist them with some things, because once again, they might not be perfect. They might not know exactly what needs to happen in regards from a marketing perspective.
Okay. All right. So, oh no, go on. Okay. So I want to share one of your quotes here, and then I'm going to ask about it. The quote is, "I've come to realize that micro-influencers are just like everyday consumers, but with a more significant reach and, in many cases, more authority." Can you please elaborate?
Yeah, so I mean, micro-influencers, I mean, the thing is, and it's the same with celebrities, same with everything. You have to realize that, they're humans, right? They're people, right? And the thing is you have to, with micro-influencers, the idea of it is they've built up a community, and sometimes not even on purpose, right? They're just putting out content that people like. I'm a yoga instructor in Los Angeles, and everybody follows me because they want to, be like me and have a pink poodle and drink chai lattes, right? So I'm like, Shane's the one to follow, like living the extreme life. But I think what it comes down to is when you look at those types of things and you look at like those types of individuals, they're very accessible, right? I mean, in the sense that they've built this community, and let's say it's 5 or 10 or 20,000 people, they're very accessible, and they're humans like anybody else. And I think it becomes a situation where when you reach out to them and, once again, you have a good pitch and kind of explain to them and very authentic on what you're offering. And so they know what you're willing to offer for, some types of services. It becomes a situation where now you can have this little army of micro-influencers of people that love your product and that vouch for your product, and now they all have their communities that are going to start buying as well. So that's what's cool about micro-influencers, is it doesn't take a crazy budget, right? You don't have to have a crazy budget, but you can go in and talk to these individuals, and they're also going to probably be a lot more engaging with their audience in regards to engagement rates and stuff like that, because they don't have a huge followership. If I put something up and I have 10 million comments, like obviously I'm not going to be able to respond to 10 million people. Micro-influencers have less comments there, which is, but the engagement rate can be higher because you're interacting with your audience, which I think is really, really important, especially if you're a brand looking at influencers. You want to know somebody that loves their audience and is engaging with their audience, so you can kind of see that engagement.
Okay. What would you say the role of content is in today's marketing landscape?
So marketing? So I mean, the thing is...
Well, content, yeah. What do you think, where do you think it fits in today?
Yeah, I mean, content, I mean, we do a lot of content, so mean, that's what my company does, is we write content for a lot of the big websites. In fact, I can't even name some of them because we have NDAs, but we do a lot of ghostwriting for them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, content, I think, is absolutely essential, because what happens with content is content, can tell a story, right? You can kind of, there's a lot of different ways to put that content together, but the content really should be written, not always, but for a good percentage of it from an SEO perspective, so that you end certain keywords, right? You want to pull in that traffic and be able to convert that traffic. So content, whether it be videos, whether it be blog posts, whether it's, pictures, whatever that is really the key to everything. It's the idea of it is that if you want to get stuff out, I mean, as an example, like the way that I got my job at UCLA was content. Like, it wasn't like a job I applied for. They saw my content. They reached out to me and said, hey, we're interested in you doing this personal branding, how to be an influencer course.
Okay.
And I said, yeah, that'd be awesome. So that was because of my content. Like, if I didn't write content today, you guys wouldn't interview me.
Yeah.
I was, right? So it really comes down to, if you want to get the word out about what you're doing, you start writing some content. Everybody starts somewhere. Your first blog article is probably going to suck. Your first video is probably going to suck, right? Just be okay with that. It's not a problem. I had the first article that I've ever written on my blog, and I showed my students at UCLA, and they're like, that's terrible. And I go, that's where I started, right? Like, it's not going to be perfect, but I at least put myself out there. And I should delete it because it is really terrible. I mean, it's like, if they would not have hired me at UCLA if they would have read that article. But it was my first blog post, right? And the idea of it is, like, at least I put it out there. Now it's obviously 1,000 times better from what I've learned.
Right.
The idea is you just got to start.
Okay. And what do you think content's going to look like in the future?
Thing is content's going to be, I think it's going to be more niche down. I think it's going to be a lot more specific on what people are going after in regards to writing content. Like, I think people have written or done content, maybe not with intention, right? Of like exactly what are you looking to get out of that content? People will write for their blogs or write for something, and that's awesome. And some blogs are just that way. Like, this is just me, it's free flowing and talking about this, out of the other. But I, like, for me as an example, like, I write content with intent. So I know what I'm looking to do with a certain type of content. So I write XYZ type of article because I know this is going to pull in this type of client that is going to be perfect for me. Or I'm going to write this kind of article because this is going to be where I can talk about my course that obviously will be the answer to what these people were looking for in my article.
Okay.
Right? I'm very intentional with what content that I put out, when back in the day, I would just put out an article. Hey, this is how to do Facebook ads. Hey, this is how to do influencer marketing. But now I do keyword research. I go and I look at my competitors. I figure out what it's going to take to be able to come number one. How many backlinks I'm going to need, what do I need to do to be able to make that post number one? And then I go and I make it happen.
Do you have more tips for getting a post to number one? Like, how do you get, your content noticed on Google? How do you get it on the first page, the first result?
The easiest way to do it is just to hire me. That's the easy. But the second easiest way is to read my blog, right? There's plenty of stuff that we write about and how to get number one on Google. There's a lot of variables to it. So it's not like, you have different keywords and the things we call KD scores, which is like how difficult it is to get to number one from a 1 to 100. So if you're a brand new real estate agent here, Sacramento, California, and you want to be number one for, Sacramento Realtor, well, I can look that up and I can probably tell you that Zillow's number one, and there's all these big fish that are going to be number one. And the likelihood of you pushing them out of the way, at least in the first year or two, is going to be small, right? So what we have to look at is like, what do we look at? We call the long tail keywords. So it's keywords that have less search volume, but they're going to be a lot easier to index for, that the Zillows and the other companies, real estate being the example, aren't going to be able to, they're not going to go after it because it's low, like there's this low search volume. But for me as a local real estate agent, that's something I want to go after. You want to produce that content, get Google seeing you, and every piece of content you produce is a potential piece of real estate on Google, right? So that's it. There's nothing wrong with that. You got to produce that content over in volume. And there'll be a point where Google starts to really recognize your blog. And then you can start going up against some of the big dogs. It just depends on who that is. But it just depends on your keywords, right? If you want to go after a crazy, crazy keyword, I can get anybody number one for any keyword. Like I take the Pepsi challenge. Like if you look up Google tools right now, I think Google for their own search terms. I do. I literally do. And that takes a long time to do that. But once you do that, it's kind of crazy. But the idea of it is like anything is possible. It just depends on budget and how quickly you want it to be done. And it just takes a lot of work. It's not like, hey, I can get you there in the next week or even a month or 2 months. it's going to take work, consistent work. And then obviously there'll be a point where you're going to wake up and go, wow, that's awesome. He was what he said he could do, and now he's doing it.
Okay, great. So speaking of Google, how do you see Google search evolving like this year into the next year and so on?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be heavy, like for obviously mobile. We've been talking about this for a while. So AMP, like AMP, is their thing for looking for mobile search. Voice is going to be big. I just did a thing with Adweek. I did an article. They interviewed me for Adweek, and their voice is going to be huge, right? I mean, people are trying to figure out with Siri and all these other platforms, Alexa
Right.
and all that. Like what we're doing is like, what is your, because one thing when you write it, right, it's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
There's no accent when we write, right? If you write something and I write something, then it's the same, right? There's no accent. Now when we have, inflections, and we have, reception, and we have all this other stuff. So voice is a big thing to go after, because the way you say something and I say something could be very similar, but we give somebody in the city next door that just sounds totally different, right? Or has an accent in the country. So voice is going to be huge, but it's also going to be something, it's going to take a while to really, really figure it out. And then you've seen Google and some other companies pick up a lot of these voice search companies, and obviously, take on the engineering team and go and really try to streamline this thing. But SEO from a voice perspective is going to be really interesting in the next, probably, I'd say next year to 3 years.
Okay, that's interesting. Do you have any more SEO tips pertaining to Google?
Yeah, I mean, well, yes. I mean, Google's always, I guess, do things the right way with Google, right? Like, I mean, there's black hat and gray hat and white hat techniques, right?
Yeah.
If you produce good content, you're not going to get slapped down, right? I mean, the idea of it is just produce good content, but what you realize that doesn't mean write one blog article and just wait 3 months and see what happens. It's consistent, right? It's a frequency.
Yeah.
People wants to know that, hey, like, why should I put you number one? The reason I should put you number one is because you write about this. I can tell that it's relevant to your blog. Somebody that's looking for I'm looking for blue widgets, and Shane writes about blue widgets all day long. He loves widgets. And they're like, okay, this is the guy that we should be showing his blog article. I mean, it takes time. It just really does. But once you get to that point, it's like, then it's just, then it's like printing money. It's beautiful.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on artificial intelligence?
Yeah. So AI, I mean, I think it's going to be, it's exciting, right? Because I think there's some cool stuff that happens behind that. I think it streamlines things, right? We can streamline things with marketing, but I wouldn't be worried about, like, I read articles of people going, oh, it's going to replace this and it's going to replace that, and they're not going to need. It won't. It's not going to replace the human side of things. Like you and I doing this interview, like AI is not going to replace this, right? You and I sending the information out, and people, how they disseminate it, and being belly to belly and closing deals and talking to people, like the human side of thing isn't going to go away, and AI will never. Well, I probably shouldn't say this, but we'll never be able to replace that. And maybe in, I don't know, 100 years or something. But right now, it's not something to be scared of. What I look at, it's like an opportunity to make things better, right? If you're going to do search intent or whatever this is, you're going to look at, AI can make it smarter for you, so you're getting better data, which is always a good thing. So I'm really, really excited about AI and marketing and machine learning and all this fun stuff. It's really exciting, actually.
What other ways do you think you can improve marketing in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I guess other ways you can improve marketing would be, I don't know, man. I mean, I guess it just really depends on. I mean, I'll give you an example for us. Like the way that we plan on doing stuff is we want to have multiple channels of where we're driving traffic. So, we're obviously doing YouTube. I've got a podcast that's coming out here in July. I mean, there's, we have our webinars and our workshop series that we're doing. I look at it like, how can I built some communities, right, that are doing awesome. And like, what do I need to do to be able to get them to be able to drive that traffic from all these communities to like my website, to my money page, right? So like marketing is always going to evolve, but if you have this community and once again, if I go and there's a new community or a new website, so, some software or something I go on, more of like a platform, I guess, like a new YouTube or whatever it is, if I go in and I know that I'm going to have this community that's going to follow me over there, and I'm already going to start with, I'll already have some traction over there. So that's what's going to be interesting, is that marketing will continuously evolve. But if you're producing good content, you have your good email list that you've built out, and you figure out who your perfect client is, then no matter how marketing evolves, you'll still be able to be ahead of the game.
Okay. And my last question is this. What is your advice for people starting off a career in digital marketing? Do you think they should focus on one niche or be multifaceted?
This is what I would tell you. So I think that what you should do, and this is what I did do, is get a mentor or do like some kind of internship at an agency. Like everything that I've learned has been on my own. And finding it out. I mean, I got my degree in marketing, but I used like 1% of my degree. Like, I hope my son doesn't hear this, but I'm using like 1% of it. Like he's in college right now. So I'm like, you got to finish college. It's important. And I'm like, now I'm like using 1%. It really, when it comes down to that, it's like it's important to get, it's beautiful because these days, like with Udemy and Skillshare, and there's all these websites where you can learn a lot and you can go and do an internship or get a mentor or do something like that. You want to accelerate your learning, right? Like I grinded it out where I was working 12, 15 hours a day and researching, looking stuff up. But if you have the money or you have somebody that'll be a mentor for you, you can go and tap into somebody like myself where I have 25 years experience. And I can tell you, your learning curve is going to go from 2 years down to 2 months because I'm going to give you all the stuff, you can go and have 10 people that you talk to that have 200 years of experience you could learn in 2 years, right? So the idea of this is like, if you're going to go jump into the space, read some articles, get enough information, go to Udemy, go to these places. I've got my course on how to be an influencer. Take my course if that's what you want to do. Go and take a look at it. Then you're going to be able to go from there. And now you're going to be able to you're going to be educated on the subject. And now you have a mentor or something like that. And now you can start putting this thing together and go after a lot of different things. Go look at influencer marketing, go look at, PPC, and then you can build an agency like that. Or you can say, I want to be very specific and all I want to do is PPC, or I only want to do influencer marketing. I want to niche down. And that's really what I want to be the king at. Then we're queen. And there we go. Go for that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Shane. This was really insightful. I can't wait to share it with our audience. And thank you for the time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.